Hello and welcome to this overview of different sets of twin sisters in historical romance book series. I'm Olivia, your favorite resource for book recommendations you can easily screenshot, and you're watching Random Olive Reads. So, first up, why twins? Well, in family themed historical romance series, it's pretty convenient to tell stories that take place in a short time period when two of the characters are the same age, especially marriage aged, and on the marriage mark. The stories could take place either sequentially in a very short time frame, or the stories may overlap in the time frame a little bit and showcase different perspectives of the same event. Now, common tropes we see here are twins who have complete opposite personalities, a little bit of trickery with switching places, seeing who can tell them apart, or one of those growing pains of the twin sisters growing apart and learning to live separately when they've been tied together their whole lives. So I'll go over the twin sisters that I have read in my backlog of reading list, and I'll be going in alphabetical order by author last name as usual. So first up, we have the twins in the Second Sons of London series by Alexa Aston. The first book we feature a twin in is Made for the Marquess. This is book 4 of the series. Now, this series revolves around a group of gentlemen friends who are all sort of overlooked second sons. Now they have inherited their titles due to unexpected circumstances. We first meet Minta as she is separating from her twin sister Sarah for the season. Minta is traveling back to London from Canada, while Sarah is staying in Canada until the next year. These two are total opposites in personality, with Minta being the social and outgoing one, and Sarah being shy and quiet. Now, in this one, we meet up with our second sons and we find the shy and emotionally scarred Marquess Percy looking for a wife. He meets the outgoing and lively Minta and is instantly smitten. However, he's afraid that his nightmares make him undeserving of her and he tries to push her away. In this story, I enjoyed how Minta was able to quickly understand that Percy was terribly shy and needed some warming up. And it's mostly due to her understanding of her own twin's disposition. I also loved how the ladies from the first 3 books of the series really welcomed Minta into their friendship circle so easily. So now we get to Sarah's story, which is in Dubious About the Duke, which is book 5 of the Second Sons of London series. This book takes place pretty shortly after the previous one ends. Now, while Sarah was really supposed to wait a year until coming back to London for her season, she decides to come pretty shortly after Minta leaves Canada and goes for London. So Sarah's just landed in London. She's seeking a match of her own for a quiet and comfortable life. Well, Minta's new husband, Percy, has a cousin named Wyn who has recently inherited a dukedom and is also looking to marry. Now, both Sarah and Wyn are supposed to go to some summer house party where they can meet eligible candidates. But with Wyn having only his parents as an example, he seeks a convenient wife upon to beget heirs. He's not interested in a love match or any sort of affection. However, when he meets Sarah, he changes his tune pretty immediately and only has eyes for her. Sarah, of course, is terribly shy. She doesn't like to meet new people. She speaks very easily with Win, but she doesn't think that she's a good fit for him because he's so outgoing and gregarious. She finds him attractive, but she knows she's not the ideal candidate for a duchess because she's so quiet and reserved. Now, a few weeks later, when Win takes on his late brother's illegitimate children, he's sort of out of his depth and he needs help. Sarah comes to the rescue, showing the boys affection and care. She's working as sort of a temporary governess. And of course, the way that she is with the boys leads Win to fall even more in love with her. This one's a fun little story that works out with the twin sisters being married off to very closely related cousins, so it's all one big happy family. Next up, we have 2 books in the Rhymes with Love series by Elizabeth Boyle. The first one where we see one of the twins is The Viscount Who Lived Down the Lane, and it's book 4 of the series. Now, Louisa and her twin Lavinia are from the country, and they're in town for the season. And Louisa's cat runs directly into her grumpy neighbor's house. Now, Pierce, who is the Viscount, was wounded in the war, and now he's a super grumpy recluse and absolutely does not appreciate the meddlesome female or the cat in his house. This one's a pretty simple, straightforward romance with the grumpy sunshine dynamic. This one also has that fun little microtrope of the Viscount totally being able to tell the twin sisters apart and knowing that the person that he's looking for is Louisa and definitely not Lavinia. The corresponding book is The Knave of Hearts, which is book 5 of the series, and this one has a little bit of overlapping timeline with the previous book. Tuck is the rakish friend of the Viscount who lived down the lane and somehow ended up in a bet with his friends that he would be able to turn the country twins into popular diamonds. However, Lavinia suffers an embarrassing fall at a ball and he definitely has his work cut out for him. She has no idea that he's helping her because of the bet and probably thinks he's really interested in her. About as predictable as you'd expect, but most people do love a reformed rake. Next up, we have two of our favorite good sisters in the Goode Girls series by Kerrigan Byrne. Dancing with Danger is book 3 of the series, and again, we have an outgoing twin and a shy and quiet twin. Mercy is the outgoing one, and she is at the scene of a murder and immediately accused and arrested, even though she's the daughter of the police commissioner, so that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Now, Raphael, who is an actual criminal, is also at the scene of the crime, but he's not actually guilty of this one. They decide to team up to find out the real killer, and I liked how bold and brash Mercy is here and how she goes after what she wants, including Raphael. Twin sister Felicity gets her book in Tempting Fate, which is book 4 of the series. This one makes a lot more sense after you've read the previous book and takes place about a year after Mercy's book ends. Felicity is completely shy and scared of people. But at this point, she basically lives alone because all of her other sisters have married and moved out. And Gabriel is the very scarred criminal brother of Raphael and has been presumed dead. But really, he had reconstructive surgery and is assuming a new identity where he isn't being like hunted and wanted by the law. Now, because Felicity is living alone and she was recently attacked, she decides to hire a bodyguard and then literally bumps into Gabriel in the street outside her house. She doesn't recognize him from when she'd met him before because of all that reconstructive surgery. But she has always had a soft spot for the man, and he's been pining for her and watching her house and her coming and going. She hires him as her bodyguard and they grow closer, but there's still that whole hidden identity thing happening, so we'll see how that turns out. I think this one was my favorite of the Good Girl series. I love that whole overprotective, pining, violent hero who'll do anything to protect the woman he loves. Next up, Callie Hutton has sent both twins in her series to Scotland in the Marriage Mart Mayhem series. The Highlander's Choice is a book 5 of the series. I think the twins are younger sisters in the spectrum of siblings in the series. Lady Sybil is in Scotland for her friend's wedding, and she's already prejudiced against Scotsmen, thinking they're brash barbarians. Sybil's friend's fiance has brought his neighbor and friend Liam to the estate, and he's got his own preconceived notions of English women, thinking they're spoiled and dainty princesses. Both are terribly wrong for each other, but they seem to prove the stereotypes wrong and are intensely attracted to each other. Eventually, Liam invites Sybil to his home to meet his family and see if they'll suit for marriage. And Liam's mother is pretty cruel to Sybil. It's a whole lot of drama that these two need to get over before anything can be settled. Now, in this one, we find that Sybil had gone to her friend's wedding without her twin sister because the twin sister was ill and couldn't travel. Um, Don't worry, though, she's recovered and heading to Scotland in the next book. The Highlanders' Accidental Marriage, it's book 6 of the series. Lady Sarah is finally well, and she's on the road to visit her sister Sybil in Scotland. I think Sybil is about to have a baby, so that's why she's headed to visit there. This is your classic road trip romance where there are tons of calamities along the journey. In the carriage accident, she loses her driver and footman and is rescued by Professor Braden, who is on his way home, which is the neighboring property to Sarah's sister. At some point, Sarah's maid and chaperone falls ill, and they need to leave her behind to keep going on this journey. Well, at one inn, Sarah declares herself to be married to Braden so that they can reserve the last available room for the night. Unfortunately, in Scotland, that counts as being legally married. So while these two are very obviously attracted to each other, they had no intentions whatsoever of getting married anytime soon. Sarah is about to be a published novelist and has obligations in London, while Braden is waiting for an opportunity to go on a scholarly expedition in Rome. Both are completely stubborn. They think their own individual pursuits are more important than their accidental marriage and spouse. There's definitely a lot of conflict here between these two that needs resolving for any sort of happily ever after. Lisa Kleypas also has a set of twins in surprisingly non consecutive books in the Ravenel series. First up, Devil in Spring is book 3 of the series. Now, Pandora and Cassandra are fraternal twins, and they don't necessarily have opposite personalities, but you can definitely tell them apart. Pandora is completely uninterested in marriage. She plans to build her own business, creating board games, and is definitely unwilling to hand over control to a husband. However, she gets herself stuck, literally, in fact, in a situation with Gabriel, who's Lord St. Vincent, and finds herself embroiled in scandal. Now, Gabriel has been successfully avoiding the marriage mart for many years, but still tries to do the honorable thing here. After some advice from dear old dad, who we recognize as Sebastian from Devil in Winter, the Ravenels are invited to the family house for a week. As Gabriel and Pandora get to know each other, he finds her charmingly irresistible. She finds herself torn between wanting him and keeping her independence. So, out of the books I had read up until this point, this had a scene that definitely made me laugh out loud when Pandora's asking Gabriel if he has any sort of like sexually transmitted infections. And Pandora is my absolute favorite with her feminist ideals and outspoken nature. Chasing Cassandra is book 6 of the series. So we have three three books in between. 4 or 5, no, 2 books in between. 4 and 5. Anyway, Cassandra Ravenel did not expect that her twin sister Pandora would get married so quickly. So now that she's feeling lonely and left behind at Pandora's wedding, she encounters Tom Severin. Tom is a railway magnate and overall shrewd businessman, and he's achieved a lot in life. However, he's listless and unhappy. Tom is unsure of what his next goal is, and he considers getting married. When he sees Cassandra for the first time, he decides he wants to pursue her. After talking to her, though, he realizes that she is much more than a beauty and she elicits too many feelings in Tom that make him uneasy. He pretty much limits himself to 5 feelings because life is just more effective that way. So we have this cold, unfeeling businessman learning to have feelings, and the pretty, compassionate woman to bring it out. Lots of time jumps in this one as time goes by between the instances when they see each other. And we also see Tom taking in and almost adopting a street urchin who Cassandra also adores and loves. This one has one of the best sort of grand gestures I've seen in a historical romance. Next up, everyone's favorite redheads are the Halifax Hellions by Alexandra Vesti. In which Margot Halifax earns her shocking reputation is the first book of the series, and the ebook is provided for free by subscribing to the author's email newsletter. This one, we find both of the twins, Margot and Matilda, are known in society as the Halifax Hellions. They're both scandalous and known for causing trouble. When Margot finds that her twin sister has eloped with a much older man, Margot seeks out the calm and steady Henry, her brother's solicitor friend, to assist in chasing her down. Of course, Henry has been in love with Margot forever and knows it's a bad idea to be in close proximity to her, but goes with her anyway. This one is a quick, steamy road trip romance that I highly recommend. It's so fun to read. We get to see the flip side of the story with In Which Matilda Halifax Learns the Value of Restraint. This is book 2 of the series, and the timeline here kind of overlaps with the other one, and they do cross paths within this book. There's so much going on in this book that it's hard to summarize it in one line. Matilda obviously is one of the scandalous Halifax Hellions. She and Margot have a reputation of behaving outrageously and getting into trouble. However, Matilda has kind of a level up secret that no one knows about. She draws naughty pictures and sells them to printers who put together erotic pamphlets. Now, Christian finds himself the subject of these naughty drawings and confronts Matilda. He has his own problems with scandal and speculation since he was rumored to have murdered his wife. Matilda's apologetic and wants to make it up to him, but he won't allow it. She finally wears him down and convinces him to let her come to his home to serve as a painting tutor for his younger sister, and they set off on the road. Matilda leaves a note for her sister that she's eloped, hoping that she won't be followed. We get to see Margot's perspective in her book. From there, we actually have an easygoing road trip and ultimately a confrontation with Margot. We have a rescued cat, arrival at a dusty castle, a shy, reluctant sister, and finally, we have an honest conversation with Christian. This book will keep all the pages turning for you because you want so badly to find out what happens next. And finally, we've got identical twins causing trouble in the Trap Trilogy series by Tracy Ann Warren. First up is The Husband Trap, which is book 1 of the series. This book starts right with the action, which I absolutely love. Violet, the shy, quiet, bespectacled twin, is on her way down the aisle to marry Adrian, except she is pretending to be her spoiled and shallow twin sister Jeanette, who wanted to call off the wedding 2 hours earlier and somehow convinced Violet to take her place. Now, Violet is a wallflower, so she knows she won't get another chance like this and takes it because she's already been in love with Adrian. The rest of the book involves Violet playing the part of a spoiled and bratty Jeanette while sometimes slipping into her actual good natured self and hoping that her husband won't notice. Of course, Adrian can't believe his good luck that maybe his snobby and shallow wife actually has kindness and depth, so he doesn't suspect anything at all. But you know that the secret will eventually come up to catch up with Violet in the most heartbreaking ways. This was such a great book. I dived right into the second one immediately. So, The Wife Trap is book 2 of the series, and after Jeanette is found out for the scandal from book 1, her parents banish her from her home and send her to Ireland to live with her elderly cousins. Along the way, she meets a middle class Irishman, Dara, who is brash and boorish, and she's super glad to get rid of him by the time she gets to her cousin's house. Although, she is surprised to see him again, where he's the architect in charge of renovations at her cousin's house. Most of this book, Jeanette is spoiled and bratty with no regard to country life, hard work, or character. She interferes with estate construction on multiple occasions just because she wants to sleep late, like her usual party going London ways. And she doesn't realize that her actions can withhold the laborer's ability to do work and get paid. Now, this type of story usually involves some sort of maturation of the spoiled main character, but it was a painfully slow sort of growth here. Add in the part where the plain old architect is actually an earl who works hard to pay off his family debts, and Jeanette looks even more spoiled and selfish in comparison. This one wasn't my idea of a fun book to read, and a huge contrast to the first book in the series, but still is interesting to see the twin sisters being total and complete opposites. Well, I hope you like this roundup of all of these books. Thanks so much for watching this video. I've put links to all the books in the description box. Like and subscribe so you don't miss future videos, and you can follow me on Instagram at randomolive.